What's up guys, Houndish here. Today we are jumping in with a couple of Destiny 2 updates, which includes a couple of small updates from Bungie. Otherwise, there's a lot of conversation at the minute in the community about lobby balancing, which is active in Trials of Osiris. We'll discuss it briefly and then we'll touch on some new rewards being unlocked in the new year, and recent teasers from Bungie about potential updates to subclasses, as well as new components that we'll hopefully be seeing in the near future, as Bungie indicate they will be moving away a little bit from destination-focused abilities. So we'll talk about that, the timeline for the next expansion, and some pretty wild loot drops to take advantage of in the next few days. So if you guys enjoyed the video, drop us a comment below and let us know what you expect from Destiny 2 in 2026. The good, the bad, the ugly. Give me your thoughts in the comments, but now let's get into it. A very minor update initially. Players have pointed out that Armamentarium's Demolitionist at home style effect currently isn't working correctly. Mercules from Bungie said this should be fixed soon, so presumably that will be in one of the first updates for 2026. And otherwise, there's a lot of discussion about Trials of Osiris, which I appreciate. Not everyone is interested in that playlist, which of course contributes to its population issues, but something else adding to that at the moment. In the known issues list, Trials of Osiris currently has lobby balancing unintentionally enabled. Among people who play a lot of Trials, this is pretty much universally disliked. Bungie have said that it's unintentional a few times now, where it finds its way back into the playlist, and as folks have said, it essentially contributes to an excessive amount of skill-based matchmaking, or at least something adjacent to that, and it also leans into that feeling of having a game where you do really well, then a game in which you are punished before being matched against the team that you're pretty much going to stomp against. So there's this kind of back-forth effect. Not that I have a massive amount of personal experience of it in recent times, although another component for Trials is that because the loot drops for it are very good, and they're not massively affected by whether you win or lose nowadays, you also encounter a lot of teams or players who join games and then essentially just throw to get reward drops as soon as possible, which is definitely one of the issues with having so many high-tier rewards just drop out of the playlist regardless of performance, right? So it puts Trials into a weird position. You could say the same for a lot of the game at the minute. Either way, it's causing a lot of drama for some players at the moment, and you'll have to give me your thoughts about it in the comment section. A brief mention for the Dawning, given that this will be the final week for the event though. Yes, as players have pointed out, Eva still has a challenge that shows up on the map to complete Dawning bounties, even though Dawning bounties don't actually exist, which obviously isn't ideal, and it does mean we get less bright dust than in the past from this event in particular. Something to be aware of in the last week though, if you've got a lot of Dawning materials, even if you've picked up most of the Dawning weapons that you want, it's totally worth just baking a bunch of cookies to deliver to vendors. As of course, on top of Dawning loot, it also drops things from the portal, the PSI Eterna, other portal weapons like a good shout, and importantly, armor sets like Swordmaster. I managed to pick up an entire tier 5 set of Swordmaster armor without actually playing any Pinnacle Ops because I'm mostly avoiding the portal. Same with the Wild Anthem set, the Soros themed stuff. If you've got masses of materials, you can get a lot of drops of these pieces of gear, so just worth keeping in mind in the last few days of the event really. If you haven't been engaging in the Dawning massively, you'll also find that baking a lot of cookies will complete challenges for you and help you on the event track. So even if you aren't playing a lot of portal content, don't sleep on the Dawning cookies, as it's essentially free portal loot without actually playing much portal. Another mention here, but some of you guys will know about the Oath of the Renegades community event that's been going on recently. Different community members pledged to various factions in Thassa's Outpost to see how highly those factions could score. Either way, the result of that is that apparently the Pikers won, and that means the emblem you can see on screen will be available for everyone in the community at some point in the new year, but it will only feature the Pikers logo on it, which is the pink one in the middle. So just a quick heads up on that, and I'll keep you posted when Bungie give us details regarding when we might actually get it. A bit of discussion here regarding subclasses and abilities and where we may go in the future with that stuff. So in the last couple of expansions, Bungie have focused on destination abilities. First, there was Matter Spark, which was definitely not a favorite. A much better version of destination abilities, of course, is what we get in Renegades. They're not really abilities in the traditional sense for Destiny, but all the vehicles, the Behemoth and stuff like that, obviously they're really strong. So they're certainly more appealing in the context of that activity, but players definitely want subclasses to get updates, or, of course, a new subclass, and Bungie have indicated that they'll be leaning into the traditional subclasses more in the near future. So, as Saint Victorious pointed out on Reddit here, there was an interview for Renegades with Robbie Stevens, and this is from The Gamer. So the article says, as strong as these blasters are, it's been disappointing to see a lack of subclass additions over the last year. Bungie has opted to experiment with destination abilities in place of evergreen sandbox additions, but thankfully, we can expect a shift back towards sandbox editions soon. Robbie Stevens said, "You should expect to see more of that stuff in the future. A lot of the focus this year was the destinations themselves, and that was through the lens of how we can do things that break the rules, even if we can't do it in the entire game. And that's part of the reason why a lot of the Renegade abilities, like being able to call a giant behemoth vehicle, airstrikes and these other things, are fully within that range. That theme and fantasy of being a Renegade, working with your crew, calling in powerful ordnances, we simply couldn't do that if it was accessible everywhere." So Bungie have strongly indicated that traditional subclasses will get more love, and of course that can happen in different ways. It can be updates to stuff we already have, new abilities built into that. It's a shame that Bungie never really touched Prismatic again. Or of course, even more exciting, but not necessarily massively likely, would be a brand new subclass. We don't know exactly which we'll get yet, but Bungie have made other indications, where for instance, Tyson Green talks about a desire to add a Transcendence type mechanic to the mono subclasses. So from the Reddit thread at least, they speculate that Eclipse, the energy from Renegades, could be another gimmick added to our kits. And I'm glad to see that Bungie are at least giving an indication that that's where they may go next, because it's one of the biggest components that gets players excited for expansions in Destiny, as it's such a big change and overhaul and general addition to the Destiny sandbox. So we'll have to see what we get up next. Of course, Shattered Cycle is the next major expansion. I was curious to see what the AI overview would be for Shattered Cycle, and it leans on some pretty good leads here. So following Edge of Fate and Renegades, focusing on exploring deep lore about the Nine, with players heading to Old Chicago to confront a cosmic entity and potentially resolve long-standing mysteries like Elsie Bray's time loop and the Dreaming City's curse. Obviously, that's based on some speculation. Other things are based on lore we have in-game, and the strong indication of us going to Old Chicago from Lodi. So that could be what we see. Of course, Shattered Cycle itself is slated for summer 2026, and while there were indications that this could be delayed, both from rumors and from what Bungie have said, where they have pushed out that roadmap and multi-year update for Destiny that they'll drop in 2026 at some point. We don't really know when it will be, but currently the artifact in-game says that it expands in a little over 200 days, and the specific date that that leans to is the 21st of July, a Tuesday. So while these in-game dates aren't always reliable, we have seen them be in the past, both for Edge of Fate itself, and that was all the way from back in Heresy, as well as additional updates like Ash and Iron and Renegades, although Bungie had directly confirmed those. So July is not a confirmed release month for this by any means, but there's a strong indication that that was the timeline that Bungie had been working towards, so it's still a possibility, but we'll just have to wait and see. Give me your thoughts on what you'd love to see next in terms of expansion and ability updates in particular. Obviously, a full-blown new subclass would be awesome, but even if Bungie could do something to flesh out existing subclasses and build on them with another element or something, it would be more in line with Transcendence, although it's certainly much better than getting no subclass additions, which has been a big disappointment this year. So share your thoughts on everything we've spoken about today. If you've enjoyed the video, a rating really does help us out. I'll keep you posted over the next week, and especially in a week or so from now when Bungie Communications ramp back up a bit heading into the new year. So keep it locked and loaded, but otherwise, cheers for watching, and I hope you guys have an awesome day.